wanderer, life adventurer, said he's a secret philosopher. He's a wandering wanderer. Hello there, once again, fellow peregrinos. Welcome to episode 26 of El Camino de Santiago Pilgrims Podcast, where we talk about planning, preparation and packing for walking El Camino de Santiago, as well as tips, tricks and hacks to make your journey along the way a lot more enjoyable. We want to take the grim out of the pilgrimage, put some more bounce in your boots, more K's in your days. And this week we have an interview with a gentleman from Liverpool, England, Martin Jamieson. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Bradley Chermside. Is that Bradley Chermside, the famous singer-songwriter and best-selling author? It should be me who's interviewing you, not the other way around.
This interview is all about you, sir. And you walked the Camino Frances last year. You're going to walk it again this year, but please take us back to the time and the place that you first made the decision to walk the Camino, and tell us why you made that decision.
Okay, Bradley. It's very good to be with you, by the way.
Thank you.
And I ought to qualify just before I answer that deep and searching first question that even though I am, yes, from Liverpool in the United Kingdom, and we're both Brits, I am speaking to you actually today from Halifax in Nova Scotia in Canada, where we've lived now in Canada for 21 years and spend 8 months of the year living in the island of Newfoundland, way north of here, but we overwinter here in Halifax. So you're sitting, I think, in plus 30 C today, down in your part of the world in the Canary Islands, and I'm sitting in a high of -9 with a wind chill of -16 today. So I thought I'd just put a bit of context on it.
That just gave me shivers, just you saying that.
I'm looking out of the window at the sea, and the sea outside today has a crust of ice across it. So anyway, yes, the actual specific answer to your question is October the 11th, 2018. I decided at long last, after a long time of thinking about it, that I was going to commit and I was going to walk the Camino Frances, which I did in May, June last year, 2019. I think at some point, anyone who's contemplating doing a Camino, it doesn't have to be the Frances, there are many to go at, it's easy not to commit. And I've known about the Camino de Santiago for over 30 years. I was first in Santiago on a holiday with my wife when we used to live in the UK in 1989, so that's over 30 years ago. We went to Santiago and Finisterre, and we sort of went to the Basilica in Santiago and saw for the first time a little bit of what was going on, even though it was way less popular at that time. And then we kept going back as we traveled from North America back to Europe on various vacations, and we're big hikers, so numerous times we've traveled into that area, and a number of times day hikes on the Camino de Santiago, and it built up on me piece by piece by piece, and I was fascinated by it, fascinated by the romance, by the challenge, by the history, by the whole spiritual aspect of it. And going and doing day hikes and observing what was going on was intriguing for me, and piece by piece by piece I got to the point where I thought, hang on a minute, I was 60 last September, and I ought to qualify that by saying really I'm a 25-year-old trapped in a 60-year-old's body.
Congratulations, by the way.
Well, yeah, there's many other things you could say about being 60, but
no.
I decided hey, look, I was 60 in September, and by the time we got to middle of October, I thought, look, if I don't come off the fence and commit to doing this, I'm going to be looking back and thinking it's something I really, really wanted to do and never did. So in middle of October, I said to my wife, that's it. I'm doing it. And I had such an amazing journey. I am, as you said, going back to repeat in May, June this year. So there's your answer.
So you made the decision, reeled in by the spiritual aspects of the Camino, and the 60th birthday was the catalyst. Now, you said you are a regular hiker, as is your wife. Did you have to do any specific training for the Camino, or were you already trail fit?
Well, trail fit, yes, because, one of the things that makes us, we used to live in Toronto for 15 years of our time in Canada, but now, as I said, we split our time between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland on the east coast of Canada, where the hiking is amazing. The coastal hiking in Newfoundland is some of the best in the world. And so we are constantly out on the trails. But once I decided to commit to doing the Francis, I decided that it was important, and I think this is a real insight for anybody who's thinking about it, to get into shape, real shape, long distance hiking shape, to do it. If I was going to get shin splints or blisters and deal with those and figure blisters out and bad knees, hips, whatever, I wanted to get them while I was in Canada and not while I was actually in Spain, because I wanted to enjoy it as much as I could. So I, last year, began training in December in Newfoundland, and we moved back here to Nova Scotia around Christmas time. And I carried on training, and I'm actually right in the middle of doing that now for this year's upcoming Camino, in that when the temperatures here are anything above either 0 C or above, I'm out on the trails, and just wrap up and walk just like Camino-esque. And I'm very lucky, particularly in Nova Scotia here, that south of Halifax, about 20 minutes drive south of Halifax, there's a whole network of trails which used to be a railway line, and no longer hasn't been a railway line for a long time, but the province converted the old railway line into a network of trails which are all kilometre marked, so you can actually measure what you're doing, and they're pretty straight, but quite beautiful, surrounded by conifers, and it's pretty wild. And if it's really icy, I put grippers over my boots and basically go down there, park up and hike. And so I'll be doing, on average, I do maybe 23 kilometers out and back. Very rarely have ever see anybody, but I really, really benefited from it, because on the Camino, touch wood,
Can I ask a question there, Martin? Do you carry the same backpack that you would carry on the Camino with you, so your body adjusts to carrying the weight?
Good question, Brad. But no, I carry a large day pack on my training hikes, so you get into that feeling of carrying a backpack. But I don't actually add the sort of weight that I've been carrying on the Camino. But attuning your body to the rhythm of long distance hiking, walking with poles, which I do, I think is a real important part of the whole thing. I was reading a forum the other day where someone was complaining about having what they call the pre-Camino blues, and they just can't wait to start, and they're really frustrated because it's 3-4 months away, and they're really feeling down because they want to go. And my response to them was, get out there on the trails wherever you are and train, because once you get out of the door, you've started. I may be in Canada, but for me, it all feels part of the journey. And last year, I kept a log, and I'm doing the same this year, and I walked 680 kilometers through the Canadian winter to prepare for the start in Saint-Jean. And when the weather's inclement, which it often is in the Canadian winter, I'm in the gym on the spin bike, and the combination of long distance walking and the spin bike, which is a weight bearing exercise which builds up the muscles, particularly around your knees, the combination of those two is great preparation. So I would encourage anybody to get out there and train.
So tune your body up, do as much training as possible, and often the advice that's been stated on the podcast by previous guests, as well as yourself, is to, if possible, and when possible, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily have to do it for the whole time you're training, but maybe try sometime with a weighted pack, more or less how it would be on the Camino, so you can see if it's comfortable. I mean, you're an experienced hiker, so you know what to carry, and you know exactly what's essential and how much you're going to take with you. But for those that are maybe first timers, maybe you want to try that as well. And what about your footwear? I'm guessing you wouldn't have the same footwear walking winter trails in Canada as you would walking in Spain.
Funnily enough, I actually do.
Right.
I don't walk. I bought some trail runners. Trail runners are the shoe of the moment for Camino pilgrims, which I hear a lot about. And I bought some Mammut trail runners, but I can't get on with them. They're too light for me. And so I switch back and forth between a non-high heel Aku boot from Italy and a Mammut boot with the full heel, which is sort of like a light hiker. And because I can use, as long as it's got a decent like Vibram sole on it, if it's snowy and Gore-Tex, I've got a Gore-Tex layer. If it's snowy, I can walk just in boots. If it's icy, we have in Canada these like gripper things which have a rubber top to them and spikes, which are a bit like crampons, I guess, that you can just slip over your boots. And it's exactly the same boots I use on the Camino. And it's always good because you're breaking in your boots and your feet are getting used to your boots and your boots are getting used to your feet. And that's what you want. You don't want to start in Saint Jean or wherever else you start with a new pair of shoes.
Yeah, definitely not. I made that mistake on my first Camino and suffered terribly. And yeah, it's definitely good advice to make sure you've broken in your footwear, whatever your choice is, whether it's boots, whether it's trail runners, or like last week's guest, Dev Cuny, who decided to walk the rest of the way in sandals when they were suffering from blisters. So it's always interesting to hear of people's blister cures. Now, we have a lot of listeners for the podcast, Martin, that will be like yourself, traveling from North America. 52% of the people that listen, the pilgrims that listen to the podcast, are from North America. So would you please let us know how you got to the starting point in SJPP Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port?
Okay. The route for me was from the east coast of Canada. Given the troubles that Boeing and Air Canada are having with the MAX 8, there's no flights at the moment directly from east coast of Canada to Europe. Everything goes via either Toronto or Montreal. So it was Halifax, Toronto to Paris, landing in Charles de Gaulle, which is the main international airport in the northwest of Paris. And then if you want to fly south, instead of getting the train, it's an easy connection. I just booked a transfer cab thing, which you can book in advance, to transfer from Charles de Gaulle Airport to Orly, which is the airport in the southeast of Paris.
Good stuff.
Which is a bit more regional. And then I flew on Air France from Orly to Biarritz, which I'm repeating this coming year. And then from Biarritz, I should say my wife joined me on the last Camino for the first 8 stages through to Logrono. So we were together until Logrono. So we were together and we flew down to Biarritz and then stayed overnight in Biarritz to get rid of jet lag or some of it. And then we got the train the following day from Biarritz to Bayonne. Mm-hmm. You could easily jump in a cab to Bayonne as well. But it's from Bayonne that the little 2-carriage chug-chug train leaves it takes about an hour to go from Bayonne to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port station. And you know what, Brad? I'm guessing you might have traveled on that train. It's fantastic. It is the most gorgeous river valley that this train line goes.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of an old rickety roller coaster in some fair that comes into your town in England. You're never quite sure if it's going to come off the rails or not, but you make it there.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And you know what? It's full of pilgrims as well. I mean, we arrived at reasonably good time because we got a connection of a big fast train. Went over to the platform. The train was already there, locked up, waiting to go. And progressively, I want to say, I don't know, was it maybe 60 or 80 passengers arrived on the platform before they opened the doors. And 90+% of them were pilgrims. And that was the first real exciting experience, I guess, of being surrounded by all these people. The sense of energy and enthusiasm and nervousness and anticipation, and on that train ride of all these people chatting away to each other in every language you could think of. And then it spilled us all out into Saint Jean and we walked into town. It's all part of it. Getting there is it's like unwrapping the chocolate bar. It's just as good as eating it, you know.
So if you're coming from North America, you can fly to Charles de Gaulle, then you're going to make your way to Orly Airport. From there, you can fly to Biarritz, and then you get a train to Bayonne, and then from Bayonne, you take the rickety train to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. And that moment, like you say, when you get off the train, I remember my skin just going on end, my hair standing up, and like, I'm actually doing this, and I've got goosebumps all down my body again, even though it is 30+ degrees here. I'm sitting here in my surfboardy shorts and going through that moment again. So thanks for helping me relive that. That's a great moment. I really like that moment. And that's where you pick up your credential in the pilgrim office as well, isn't it? In Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port at the top of the hill.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I actually took a photograph of the very kind lady behind the counter who helped me with the credential with my first stamp. And just some people I've again reading about the Camino, a lot of people for the first time they want to arrive in Saint Jean and go straight to Orisson, and I always say don't even think about doing that, because day one is not such a big deal, I think, anyway. People make a big deal of day one. Oh, it's so high and it's so long, and actually if the weather's okay, if it's inclement, it's tough. But if the weather's okay, don't be afeared too much of day one over to Roncesvalles, and do dwell in Saint Jean, soak up the atmosphere, spend a bit of time there, go to the pilgrim office, wander around. It's the most amazing environment, and you're right, you've made the commitment. Most people, when they travel, they'll fly somewhere and fly back, or they'll fly somewhere and hire a car and drive off and drive back. But this is somewhat unique in that you arrive somewhere with your backpack and you're not going home from the same place. You're actually going home from a different country. And the way that feels when you get off transport and you're going to be 1.5 months or whatever without getting in a car or a bus or a train, it's a unique feeling. And I would encourage your listeners, those who are contemplating, to make the most of that moment.
I would echo those sentiments as well, and also Santiago as well. When you get to Santiago, it's worth stopping over an extra day at least if you can. I did the same as you, Martin. I stayed an extra night in Saint-Jean, and I love just walking around, listening to, like you say, all the different languages being spoken, the sense of anticipation and excitement in the air that you and everyone around you are about to do something that you've wanted to do for a long time, that once-in-a-lifetime adventure. Got to be twice for you and many repeating pilgrims, but for some people, when they first do it, they think it's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and soak it up, take it into your bones, just absorb everything about it. It's definitely worth staying. And it's a pretty little town as well, so
beautiful.
I think it's definitely worth a stopover. Now, I know you said for yourself that first climb up into the Pyrenees with good weather actually isn't that tough. If you're an experienced hiker like yourself, and I know for me, I reveled in that physical challenge because it was summertime and I did shoot up. And I don't know if you know that peak is actually higher than the highest peak in the UK. It's actually higher than Ben Nevis, that peak. Yeah, so you said that you probably didn't have blisters. I'm imagining you didn't because you're an experienced walker. But in our pre-interview chats, you did allude to something that you could use to help prevent and cure blisters. What was that?
Yeah, I've got a few things to say about blisters.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Right, because I did see and witness a lot of people suffering, including my wife, who actually got terrible blisters, and it's very common, and prevention is everything. And so while and during the course of your many podcasts thus far, there's been a lot of discussion about this, and there's all sorts of ideas. What I would say to people is that everybody is unique. Everyone's feet are unique. And therefore, what I would encourage people to do is I encourage people to train. I would encourage, and this is what I did, I worked on a system that would work for me that was a blister prevention system. And it worked for me. But it took me a little bit of time through trial and error to get to that eventual endpoint. So I would encourage people to try. So for example, I tried icebreaker socks, darn tough socks, smart wool socks, smart wool PhD, which is the brand that I ended up finding was exactly the right one, because it's a tight fitting sock, merino wool that doesn't slip and slide. There's no movement, because movement is a big problem in the cause of blisters.
The friction, yeah.
So Smart Wool PhD were the ones I settled on. You've talked about the application of Vaseline in your later Caminos as being a breakthrough thing for you.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. I actually used a similar substance to Vaseline, which is actually a foot balm for people who are diabetic. Now, I'm not diabetic, but diabetic people apparently can have quite a lot of trouble with dry and cracked feet. And I use this sort of gungy balm, which is available at retail here, that is a bit like Vaseline, only a bit thicker. So I'll coat my feet in that in the morning.
What's the name of this product?
Oh, it's actually called Skin Fix, the brand, and they make this specific healing foot balm. It's like a pink, gungy, Vaseline-y sort of material, but it's a little bit thicker than Vaseline. But in any way, having some kind of lubricant on your feet before you put your sock on is great. And then the trick of all tricks, from my experience, is a brand or a product called Hiker's Wool. That's the brand name. It's made in New Zealand. It's made or harvested from merino wool sheep. They have a website. If you Google Hiker's Wool, and there's a little video on their website which shows you how to use it. But basically, when they shear the sheep, they harvest a little bit of the finest wool closest to the skin of the sheep, rich in lanolin, and pack it up in small reams. It's weightless, so it's brilliant to carry. And if you take a little bit of this hiker's wool each morning, and after you've applied your Vaseline or whatever, wrap some of this hiker's wool around your toes before you put your socks on. Not only does it support your toes, and it prevents movement. And if you get a hot spot during the day, stop, put a little bit of hiker's wool down your sock onto the hot spot. It sticks to your sock like glue, like Velcro. Hot spot goes away. It is the most amazing innovation for blister prevention. So I would just suggest to everybody contemplating that they work on a system during training that works for them. Can I say one more thing, Brad?
Yeah, please. It's extremely helpful what you said. So yeah, one more thing, go for it.
Okay. I developed this hypothesis while I was walking because by the time my wife had left me in Logrono and gone off and back to Canada, and I carried on, what I was finding, I was coming across a lot of people who were suffering from blisters, but I was finding that around 85-90% of the people I was witnessing with trouble were women and girls. And I was thinking, am I just imagining this, or is this true? And I hooked up and walked for a while with an American doctor. And I was talking to her, and I said, look, I explained that I was largely seeing women with this problem. It's not exclusively female, and I said, am I imagining this, or am I right? And she said, Martin, you're exactly right. And I said, well, what's that all about? And she said, it's absurd that the reason that women have a much greater propensity to suffer from blisters than men is that women look after their feet and stupid men don't. Women want soft, beautiful feet. Men don't, often many men, me included, don't even really look at your feet very much. And they want to remove calluses. We don't think about it. So there's a hypothesis, and if you're female and listen to this, the only advice I can offer is don't look after your feet too well and go for pedicures, etc. within about a year of taking on the Camino.
We need to get you a website that says blisterguru.com. This is some great advice. And you know what? In episode 15 or 16, I can't remember which one it was, but we interviewed a lovely lady called Rachel Smith from Los Angeles. And her advice was, ladies, don't go for a pedicure before your Camino. So you just echoed her advice as well. So let's just run through that quickly. So you said merino wool socks
merino wool socks,
and the smart wool PhD were the ones you said you went for in the end.
Yeah, they're the tightest that stick to your feet. Yeah,
brilliant. And you also said the Skin Fix foot balm, which you applied to your feet before, and the hiker's wool. And last but certainly not least of that workshop on blister prevention is, of course, making sure that today in this day and age, I guess some men go for pedicures as well. So whether you're a man or whether you're a female, just save the pedicure for afterwards. Simple as that. Great advice, Martin. Thank you very much. Now, I know you're not an Alberg person, and I completely understand why you wouldn't want to go in an Alberg. I have my days where I love Albergs. I have my days when I just need my own room. I need to have a hot shower. I need to get a good night's sleep for sure. But you said in our pre-interview chats you had an interesting Alberg idea, strategy, tip. What was that?
Well, it's a recommendation really, Brad. And I ought to qualify. I'd love to stay in Albergs, but I snore, particularly when I'm drinking red wine, which I do. You know, you can't walk through Rioja and Ribera del Duero and Bierzo wine regions without enjoying red wine. So,
it'd be a crime, wouldn't it?
It is a total crime. So speaking here from his dry January right now, but I would love to say an Alberg, but I couldn't because I don't want to be the big snoring guy. So I do. It's not always the Ritz by any means. I do tend to book places that have a private room and a bathroom, which sounds a bit of a luxury. Having said that, some of the places I stay are fairly basic, but I just have one. It was listening to a podcast from Dan Mullins. Oh, no, it wasn't Dan Mullins. It was a previous one from a guy called Brendan who used to run a podcast called the Camino, Project Camino, I think it was. And he interviewed this lady called Susie, who started an albergue in a little town called Trabadeo, which is between Villafranca del Bierzo and Las Herrerias, as you approach the climb up to Osabrero. Trabadeo is the name of the town, and her albergue is called Casa Susie. And I was intrigued to hear her story. And when I was walking through Trabadeo, I couldn't resist, even though everything was closed, knocking on the door because I wanted to get a stamp, a SEO from Casa Susie. And she answered the door. We spent about 20 minutes together. The most delightful woman. A really interesting story. I won't tell it now, but she has 12 beds, not bunk beds. They're just beds, vegetarian, family-style meal. Most of it comes from her own gardens, right on the bank of the river in Trabadeo. It is just idyllic, and I would encourage anybody to look hard at Casa Susie as they're traveling through that part of the world.
Someone else has mentioned that as well. Casa Susie. That was mentioned on episode 3. Dina Corcoran from Australia recommended Casa Susie. So there you go. That's the second recommendation for Casa Susie. And so that's the recommendation of an albergue to stay in, yeah?
Yeah. 100%.
Fantastic. And you also mentioned, I turned into James Bond there. You also mentioned Dan Mullins' podcast, My Camino. If you haven't listened to that, please go and check it out. And also Project Camino, which I think that one stopped now.
It has.
That's there. It's got a good few years of episodes on there. So if you get bored of listening to me, fellow shellmates, go and listen to those podcasts as well. They're absolutely excellent. Now, we're going to move on, Martin, if it's okay, to 3 things that would be at the top of your packing list.
Really easy, this one. number one item, a corkscrew. I'd hate to be in a position of having a wonderful bottle of Ribera del Duero and no means of opening it.
You're a genius.
Or having to push the cork down like I used to when we were students. Item number two would be my hiking poles. I do walk with Lecky hiking poles from Germany. I would not be without those. And again, I would encourage everyone thinking about walking a Camino to experiment with poles and use them properly. Go on YouTube, have a look at the training videos. I saw so much misuse of hiking poles on the Camino, which renders them useless.
Back scratchers.
Yeah, if you learn to use them properly and hold them properly, and get into the rhythm with them, the fact you're using them, they disappear. They completely disappear. So all my walking, whether it be training or Caminos, now is all with two light Lecky poles from Germany. And I came across one particular situation on the edge of Galicia last year. I came across this young lass from Texas and her mother, and this girl was really suffering with her knees, but she was using her poles. But she was using her poles really badly, really badly. And I couldn't resist. I just said, look, would you mind if I just gave you 5 minutes on how to use your poles that might actually help to transfer 30% of the effort and stress from your legs and your lower body up to your upper body? And she was a great student, and we spent 5 minutes together, and she got it, and she started walking that way. 2 or 3 days later, I bumped into the mother and daughter again, and she was going real strong, and she was actually in the middle of tutoring somebody else, another young lass, who had trouble. Because
what did you say to her?
Point them slightly backwards. Don't grip them. Use the straps. The point of contact with your body is the strap around your wrist. The fact that you're holding the handles is very light. You don't grip the handles at all. The piece that holds the contact point that holds the poles to your body is the strap, pointing slightly backwards. And as you move your left and right foot, going opposite with your hands with the poles. You can see this online, and just spring off on each time. So push forward with the poles. It transfers 30% of the effort into your upper body and is amazing if you get it right.
Right. Okay. So look up those, if you can, on tutorials on YouTube about how to optimize the use of walking poles. And like you said, one of the big things is to use them to thrust, which puts a lot of the force through your upper body rather than your hips and knees, which will obviously save your joints. And what was that the last piece of your kit list?
Layers. We can talk about gear a little bit later maybe, but when I say layers, and I do this in North America as well, hiking for full days, and certainly in Spain, along the Camino Frances, with all of its gradient and all of its mixed weather, from the rain and winds of Galicia and the heat of the Meseta in the middle, you need to be prepared for all eventualities. And the way to do that is to layer up. So I would walk on a cold morning. I left Roncesvalles. The temperature was 0 C, and the wind chill was about -5. I hadn't packed any long trousers. I was in shorts, which was okay. But the trick is layers. So I had an icebreaker base layer, an icebreaker merino top. I then had a Patagonia fleece, and then had a jacket that I could wear. And you can take off layers and put layers on according to the weather conditions. And I see so many people with big, bulky items that when you've got it on, it's too hot. When you take it off, it's too cold. So I would just recommend that people should prepare to have layers, and you can add and remove layers as and when according to the conditions.
Because even in the summer at altitude, it can get cold. So it's important that you do have something for every eventuality. So there we go. Corkscrew, because you're a little old wine drinker. The hiking poles for obvious reasons we've already stated, and those layers to keep warm, even if it's a hot summer day. at sea level. When you get up to altitude, it can be cold. Let's move on to the next question. Let's dive into your favorite city, town, or village along the Camino and why. Somewhere perhaps worth staying an extra day.
Well, this was a hard choice, Brad. I'm going to say Villafranca del Bierzo, which is almost on the border of Galicia. It is the most wonderful town. It's atmospheric, it's mystical, romantic, historic, all those things. It's not, however, necessarily worth staying an extra day because it's not very big.
Small, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, if you arrive, mid-late afternoon, to spend a few hours there is enough. But it is the most magical place. And for those who, I've only day hiked there in the fall because my Camino last year was in May, June time. But in the fall, given the popularity of roasted chestnuts in that part of the world, there's a couple of bars, one particularly not on the main square, just a little bit off the main square. Whereas if you go in and get a beer, it's a real locals place. They'll give you a beer, but also give you warm roasted chestnuts as a tapas snack to go with the beer. My goodness me, how wonderful that was.
That's often. There was a little notification that came through there. I think it was on your computer, and I was like, "Oh, that's a nice, no problem." Villafranca del Bierzo was actually definitely one of the places I am going to stay at when I walk the Camino Frances again, whenever that may be. Mine was that one in Molina Seca. Charming towns, kind of, ostentatious buildings and surroundings, and the food looks amazing there. I passed through there really early morning, so everything was closed, and I was just like, I really wish it was open. I kind of put that on my list. So thanks for that recommendation, Martin. Villafranca. Please do.
Say one thing. Moving slightly tangentially on that, when you mentioned to me that the end of your question, somewhere worth staying an extra day.
Yeah.
I had a couple of days off, Leon, Burgos, which was fine. It was great fun. But for those starting their Caminos this year and beyond, I can honestly recommend. I'm not doing it this year. I did last year. I would recommend staying an extra day in Santiago de Compostela. And
absolutely.
The reason for that is because I understand that the Pilgrim Office in Santiago has changed the rules this year in terms of the way they manage lineups and issue Compostelas. So, which is the certificate for completion of the Camino. If that is important to you, and for me, I picked one up last year, but it wasn't, for me, it wasn't particularly important, the Compostela. The completed credentials were more important for me. But apparently, they now are moving to rather than just having people line up, they are moving to a situation where they're going to issue tickets. And so you go to the Pilgrim Office, pick up a ticket, and then come back a little later on your smartphone. You'll get a message when you're within 50 of the number being served at the time. And that's a big change. And apparently they're only going to issue, I think, 1,200 tickets a day. So if you're in the most popular times of May through September, October, and you arrive in Santiago intending to leave later in the day or the following morning, if you really want a Compostela, and you're there after all the tickets have gone that day, you ain't going to get one. And so that's just a bit of advice for those who really want one. And I would hate to see anyone leave Santiago without their Compostela because they can't get a ticket.
Great advice there, Martin. Thank you very much. I wasn't aware of that update to their protocol, and I was only there in December as well. So they have renovated and modernized the building where you get your Compostela, the Pilgrim Office. And you do get a ticket, but this was in December, and it's just like if you're going in to pay your taxes, as I begrudgingly did today. But anyway, that's another story. You just get your ticket, you wait until it comes up on the screen, and then you go to the desk and get your Compostela. But if there's a limit to them, and also it's a great place to spend an extra day, lots to see, and you end up getting those unforgettable pilgrim reunions where you might catch up with people you haven't seen in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and someone you might have seen back on day one but haven't seen since, and you've only met them maybe for 10 minutes, but you end up giving them a big hug. And that's one of the magic of the Camino, one of the things I love about it. So great advice on the Camino office there to get your Compostela certificate of completion when you're finished. And if you're anything like my wife, and that is very important to you, ours is currently framed on the wall from December, which makes me laugh. Yeah.
Mine in its tube. I'm looking at it right now.
Is it still in the tube?
Yeah. I don't know where to put it. We haven't got any wall space. I don't think I'm allowed to put it.
Mine is in a frame on the wall. Rachel put it out there. She really makes me laugh. But anyway, okay. So, Martin, you're now going to be my guinea pig for what's going to be the quick fire section of the podcast. So just short, quick answers so we can get some more resources, some more ideas, some more stuff for our shellmates to take home and help them have a bit more Camino material to watch, listen, and prepare for their Camino. So I don't have any theme tune to play for this quick fire part. Just I'll give you a countdown. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. So, favorite Camino blog, vlog, or book?
2 here, Brad. For those who haven't seen it, most people have. Walking the Camino, 6 Ways to Santiago. It's a documentary film. There is an HD version up on YouTube. You have to pay for it, like a few bucks to watch it, but it was brilliantly done. Walking the Camino, 6 Ways to Santiago. But another one that's just gone up in the last couple of weeks, I don't know the person. It's a gentleman called Jacob, Jacob, and I think he's from Amsterdam. He's put up a film. It's about an hour and 20, a documentary film of the Camino Frances from beginning to end. And what you look up is Jacob, Camino de Santiago, May, June 2019. And he doesn't say anything. It's a sort of silent movie with just the sounds of what's going on around. But this guy is clearly a skilled cameraman. And it's a beautiful watch. It's a great walk down memory lane for anyone who wants to go from San Juan to Santiago in an hour. Watch Jacob's film. It's on YouTube.
Favorite food and or drink on the Camino?
Wow. There's too many for short.
Sounds like you got a book load there.
There is patatas bravas.
Yeah, good recommendation.
And there's a bar in Logrono called Bar Jubera, Jubera, in the tapas region of the town. Best patatas bravas in Spain, not just on the Camino. And in the same town, just to be quick, there's a unique tapas bar which was recommended to us, and my goodness, was it marvelous. All they serve is mushrooms, but they grill these mushrooms with the sort of garlic butter and 1 prawn on the top, and they stab them with a skewer into a piece of crusty bread. And it's just beer and wine and this single mushroom tapas. And the bar is called Bar Soriano, 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 Bar Soriano, just round the corner from Jubera, the patatas bravas place. Logrono is the most amazing centre for tapas anyway, but visit Bar Soriano and Bar Jubera while you're passing through. You will not regret it. And sorry, I know it's quick fire, but one very quick addition to that. In Leon, because you said food and drink, I'm a big beer drinker, love my beer. There's a microbrewery in the centre of Leon called Four Lions, and it's English, Four Lions Microbrewery. They serve the most amazing craft beer that they brew on the premises, and every pint comes with some sliced top-end Serrano ham and crusty bread. Can you imagine?
I am going to put links to all of these places, if I can find them, on our Facebook page, Camino de Santiago Pilgrims Podcast. So you can find Bar Soriano for the garlic mushrooms. So you can find Bar Jubera for the patatas bravas. And so you can find where this craft brewery is in Leon. Thank you very much for that. Let's go on to the next one. One thing you wish you'd packed.
2 things, gloves and long trousers. I didn't think, I'm going to Spain in May, June. I didn't think I'd need gloves. On 2 days, I could have done with some light gloves to walk with my poles. I mean, I kept putting my hands in my pockets, but gloves, it's the whole layer thing. Be prepared, gloves and long trousers.
One thing you didn't need and wouldn't take again?
A compass and a phrase book.
I couldn't agree more. One place you wish you'd stayed over. I think we might have covered this already, but
Molina Seca.
there we go.
You said that.
I
What
did,
a
yeah.
lovely town. And I walked through it and I thought, oh, I wish I could stay here. But I was too early in the day, so I couldn't.
An important word or phrase to learn in Spanish.
Dos cerveza, por favor.
There you go. Perfect. Get yourself 2 beers. So that was our quick fire round, and that was the quick fire round theme tune ending there. So as you can see, thanks for being my guinea pig on that one. Okay, so we're going to we're going to shift gears a little bit to, for me, one of the things we talked about in our pre-interview chat, Martin, was you said you had some general tips and learnings to pass on. I wonder, you've already talked about hiking poles, which is one thing you said, but you did mention safety and gear tips. So could you just dive into those briefly?
Yeah, before I do, Brad, I know you said briefly, it was the longest quick fire round you'll ever have, by the way. Just a couple of amusing general tips. Don't stop at the first cafe bar in villages and towns. If you're ready for a cafe con leche, it can be compelling to stop at the first one. But I found that often the first one was the worst one. So walk on and hunt around a bit before you make your choice. Another general tip would be to buy lunch on stage 1, day 1, because there isn't anything up there on the hills other than Orisson, which is 8 kilometers in.
Yeah, great tip.
So make sure you get a large sarnie from Saint-Jean before you head
supplies,
up the hill. And the couple of things you wanted to that I was going to talk about briefly. I was concerned because when I train here in Canada, in Newfoundland, before the winter sets in, we have various elements of fairly dangerous wildlife that you have to be very aware of, like moose during rutting season. There's loads and loads of moose, but also we have a lot of black bears who go to sleep for the winter, which is handy, but in the pre-winter they don't. And we have the thing that I'm afraid of most, which is coyotes and coy wolves, which is where coyotes have crossbred with wolves. And so you've got an animal the size of a wolf with the mentality of a coyote. It's not good. And so I was conscious of the fact that on the Camino, I was concerned that there might be some risks from wild or feral dogs or badly managed dogs. And actually, to put people's minds at rest, throughout the entire Camino Frances, there was really no issues at all. However, a companion and I, one night, we were staying about 8 kilometers off the Camino. And because of time, and it was a beautiful day, we decided to walk 8 kilometers through the countryside to this place. And I have to say, during that walk through a couple of small villages, we had the most terrible trouble with angry and aggressive dogs. But it just shows you how well the Spanish people control their animals on the Camino. So it is a danger. You always have to be aware, but don't be too concerned. I know there's quite a few people who are concerned, but the Spanish manage it extremely well. On gear, I would just say I use a Deuter backpack with what they call air comfort.
Could you spell that for us, please?
Deuter, it's a German make, Deuter. A lot of people use Osprey. Osprey and Deuter are the sort of premium brands that compete against each other. I particularly like the air system that Deuter have for your back, because when you're walking in the heat, it can be very uncomfortable, particularly if you're walking uphill. To get a sweaty back with your backpack touching your back. Well, the air comfort system that Deuter have is a frame on the backpack that holds the backpack away from your back. It's the same shoulder straps, but that I found to be a really, really good thing to keep your back nice and cool while you're walking. Other than that, it's all layers. Use high-tech materials. Use smart wool. Use merino. use quick dry stuff. And I know a lot of people talk about having a water bladder for water. I use Nalgene water bottles because I was in the food industry all my life, and as a food scientist, I've always been concerned by contamination. And I know those bladders are great, but they're also difficult to wash and keep clean. So just be aware of that.
Great stuff. So we've done a lot of talking about equipment, gear, lots of tips, lots of really practical information, some great takeaways actually. So thank you so much for all that insight from your Camino so far, and I'm sure these are going to serve you when you go back and walk again. When are you going this year?
Early May again.
Okay.
A little bit later, a few days later. But can I just add one thing that, and it's very short, but it's important for first timers. It's something I figured out during my time on the Camino. I loved collecting SEOs, stamps, on my credential. And I bought an official credential from the Canadian Company of Pilgrims, of which I am a member. It's an association here in Canada. And they issue credentials, but so does the Pilgrim Office and various other organizations. You just be aware, you can fill more than one card. I was finding I got about a third, maybe towards half of the way through, and I'd filled my card, and I was concerned. So I started filling another one. And actually, it doesn't matter at all. They're fantastic souvenirs. Get as many stamps as you want. And some of the very best stamps, this is often overlooked, are available from town halls. People get bars, cafes, hotels, restaurants, churches. But go into the town hall in these villages and towns. They don't mind. Go past the policeman and say, hey, can I get a SEO? And they'll point you through to an office. And some of the very best stamps are available from the town halls.
My wife is crazy about the stamps as well, and she found this supermarket along the way where they give you an avocado stamp, and she insisted we had to go and get an avocado stamp everywhere along the way. So if you are addicted to those stamps and that's a treasured thing for you, then town halls and maybe the avocado supermarket. I can't remember the brand name, but anyway, yeah, great tips again. Thanks, Martin. Now, go on.
Sorry, Brad.
Yeah, go.
It's an urban myth that you have to get 2 stamps a day. It is true, but for pilgrims who are starting in Sarria or somewhere similar to do the final 100 kilometers, yes, to qualify for Compostela, for those pilgrims who are only doing 100 kilometers into Santiago, you have to get 2 stamps a day. But for those who walk further distance, it is not necessary.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've heard contrasting things about that as well. If you look at the Pilgrim Office website, it does insist that you get 2 stamps per day, but I don't think they actually clarify that that's only for people starting in Sarria. So I think to be safe, just get 2 stamps per day. But like you say, if you like your stamps, get as many as you want and get as many credentials as you want. But yeah, I don't know whether the Pilgrim Office just neglects to give you all of that information because they just want to make sure everyone gets 2 stamps and they're just kind of generalizing it. But yeah, that's all great advice all the same. Now, in terms of the Camino, for me, the physical aspect of it is a great feeling, doing that much exercise all day, being out in the great wide open is amazing as well. But one of the most magical things for me about the Camino is the characters you meet along the way and their own personal stories and the stories that they enrich your own Camino with. Have you got a Camino story? It could be funny, could be inspiring, someone you met, something that happened, something that will live with you.
I have. I mean, I've got a million, to be honest, Brad, and I'm conscious of the time. So I'm going to tell you briefly, I'm going to tell you one all about an inspiring person, and it's back to my friendly doctor from the United States who advised me and counseled me on my hypothesis on the propensity for females to suffer blisters more than males. Her name was Dr. Nicole Taylor. She's an anesthesiologist and great teacher. And I met her and a walking companion of hers along the way in the early going, and we became friends and are very much in contact today. And she is just the most inspiring person. And I'll tell you why. Nicole suffers from multiple sclerosis, and she was diagnosed about 7 or 8 years ago now. And she's a woman in her late 40s, I guess. When she first was diagnosed, she was walking with a walker and getting around on a trike because of the mobility constraints of multiple sclerosis. And you know what? Through sheer determination, through the latest in breakthroughs in pharmaceuticals and physio and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, throughout those 7 years, she managed to get herself into a level of fitness and shape to take on to walking the entire Camino Frances. And she did. And she made it. And she is part of an organization that is attempting to rid the world of this awful condition, MS. And she's part of a campaign called Finish MS. And you know what she did? In the lead up to coming on the Camino, her and a group of friends, including her 2 daughters, decorated a whole number of small stones with inspiring quotes and designs. And then on the back of each stone was the Finish MS Facebook page, which if you search Finish MS, you'll find it. And the idea was that she would leave these stones along the way. People would spot them. Once she got ahead of me, because I had a day off, I would find each of the daily stones that she'd leave. And the idea is you find it, you turn it over, you see the Facebook page, hopefully you go and you contribute something to the cause, but then you hide it again. This woman brought 44 kilograms of stones from the United States to Saint-Jean and progressively spread them throughout the Camino Frances. And I think it's just the most remarkable story. She raised over $40,000 in this initiative. And to tell that story and to give her a little bit of a plug, please go on to Finish MS Facebook page and see if you can make a difference. Well done, Nicole.
Well done, Nicole, and thank you so much for sharing that lovely story. And if that can't inspire you to go and do the Camino, I don't know what will. Talking of inspiring people to go and walk the Camino, what would you say to someone that's thinking of walking the Camino, but they're sitting on the fence? How would you convince them to go? What would you say to them?
Don't be fearful. I was a bit fearful. Everyone's a bit fearful. And you've got to commit. As I said right at the outset of our chat, Brad, it's easy to find reasons not to. I would say, don't be fearful. Commit. There's a couple of quotes that I want to use before we wrap up, but here's a good time for one of them, which is on the back of a book that my daughter did for me. She actually, as a surprise Christmas present, I did daily Facebook posts from the Camino, which I greatly enjoyed, and it inspired a number of other people to look hard at it, and it was great fun with just 4 photographs every day. And unbeknownst to me, she downloaded all of my Facebook posts and reproduced them with the commentary as a book and gave me this book for Christmas. And on the back, she put a quote, and this quote says, "Don't come to the Camino looking for answers. Instead, come with an open heart, and you may be surprised what you find." Okay.
Now, that would move me quite neatly onto the next question, because when I walk the Camino, I don't actually intend to do this and I don't plan to do it, but it just tends to happen as my thoughts evolve along the way. Did you make any Camino resolutions? All that time on the road gives you a lot of thinking space, a lot of head space. Was there something you thought, I'm going to do more of this, I'm going to do less of that, I'm going to improve my life this way, I'm going to remove that negative? Some moment of epiphany?
Well, yes and no. Yes, absolutely. It gave me a lot of thinking time, good quality thinking time. And in fact, you've talked a lot to other correspondents or respondents about Cristofero. I actually took 2 stones. I took a pass stone, which was full of regrets and mistakes and burdens, I guess, to leave behind, and I left it behind. And that maybe did a bit of good. But I also, unusually, had a future stone. And in that future stone, I was going to think about everything on the way to Cristofero over the many days of things to put in the future stone, which I was going to commit to make changes.
Nice.
And I have done horribly with all of that. So I made all these ideas and resolutions. And so another reason for going back is I've got another stone, which I picked up off a wonderful wild beach in Newfoundland last summer, which is already in my backpack. And that stone is going to Cristofero next year. I'm just taking one, and it's yet another future stone, and I'm going to try and make a better job of it this time round.
What was one of those resolutions, just to know?
To play my guitar more. That's something you can. I'm an okay guitar player, and I'm a bit of a closet guitar player because I really should get out there and play in front of people, but I don't. And I really made the resolution to really get in, practice, do it properly, which I know if I did that, it'd be great fun for me to do that, and I'd get used to it and get over my shyness. But I never did it. And I'm looking at my guitar right now over there. It's in its case. I've got to put some more hydration in it because of the cold Canadian winter. But I failed miserably. So I'll go back this year with another future stone and put something in it, and this time try and keep up with me.
This time next year, Martin, we're going to invite you back to the podcast, and you're going to play a song for us live. Okay, you're committed to that now. And of course, because you're from Liverpool, it would have to be a Beatles song.
Possibly, yeah. I mean,
are you a Beatles fan?
Yeah, I am. I mean, you can't be. I mean, I grew up in the 1960s, early 1960s in Liverpool, where the Cavern was going strong.
Lucky you.
So, wow. I saw the boys several times growing up. They were in and around Liverpool. And
I love the way you call them the boys.
Yeah, well, what a bunch of lads they were. There's a challenge. I'll add that to my future stone. Brad.
Favorite Beatles song?
Eleanor, Lady Eleanor, I think.
Eleanor Rigby or?
Oh, Eleanor Rigby. I was thinking
Eleanor Rigby. Is that the one?
Lady Eleanor is actually a Lindisfarne song.
Okay.
Eleanor Rigby is the Beatles song.
They do have another song, Lady Madonna, don't they? I'm a massive Beatles fan, so absolutely.
And you know what? My old man, who's sadly passed away now, he was born in Penny Lane, number 35 Penny Lane. It does exist. It's not a great street, Penny Lane, but he was born on Penny Lane.
What a claim to fame that is. And talking of music, it would be remiss of me not to mention your daughter's band, who are currently in the Canadian top 10 Mono Whales. That's what they're called, right?
Yeah, Monowhales, Mono Whales. They're an indie band, and they're really some of the hardest working musicians I know, and they just hit the top 10 this week.
Look them up, please, everybody. Look them up. Support Martin's daughter. I'm definitely going to go and Spotify them right now while I'm looking at Mono Whales, while I'm going to look at Dan Mullin's album as well, called Duende, somewhere along the way. And I think, Martin, I'm just going to say for May 2020, in only 4 months and a bit now till you leave for the Camino again. So for that journey, I wish you, fellow peregrino, buen camino.
Thank you, Brad. It's been great fun. Can I just finish off with just a couple of tiny quotes?
You can definitely finish off with a long quote if you want to. It doesn't have to be a tiny one.
These are small. Many people have asked me, and I'm a great talker, as you can now see, but many people have asked me to sum up the Camino. And I'm sorry, I can't attribute this because I don't know who wrote it. These are not my words, but it summed it up in one sentence. And I heard this somewhere, and I think it's so meaningful. And when people say to me, Martin, sum up the Camino in one sentence, I say, it is the most Buddhist of experiences on the most Catholic of trails. And then the second quote I want to use is on one of Nicole's stones. She gave me a stone, her last stone. She gave it to me to bring back to Newfoundland to spread the word in the square in Santiago. And I was really honored that she would give me this stone. And the quote is, again, I forgive me, it's an American female author. I can't remember her name, but the quote is really meaningful. And it's the challenge for when people come back from the Camino. And it really resonated with me. And it goes like this. The hardest thing about returning from long distance hiking is that you have grown outside the puzzle and your piece no longer fits. Buen Camino.
Wanderer, a life adventurer, said he's a secret philosopher. He's a wandering wanderer.